There's a missing link in British comedy history. A ghostly figure who connects the lost world of music hall to modern TV sitcoms. A forgotten godfather of laughter, whose work influenced The Goon Show, Hancock's Half Hour, Dad's Army, and even the single greatest figure in British 20th century theatre.
I adore The Entertainer. I think it's the most wonderful part that I've ever played.
Archie Rice was influenced by a Negro blues singer. Are there any actors who've influenced you to that degree?
Yes, lots of them. I've mentioned Fairbanks, Barrymore, whose Hamlet I first saw when I was 17 years old. Noel Coward, in his way, influenced me a great deal. He lent me a very stern professionalism. Of all people I've ever watched with the greatest delight, I think, was in another field entirely, was Sid Field. I wouldn't like anybody to think that I was imitating Sid Field when I was doing The Entertainer.
Well,
because,
there were little things in it.
Little things, but Sid Field was a great comic, and this man is a lousy one. But I know when I imitate Sid Field now, to this day. I still borrow from him, freely and unashamedly.
You carry on and I'll catch you up. Pardon me. You want to see me on Saturday night? Oh, what a wonderful sight. I got a coat, fits me just like a glove. My fiddler's a fiddle and ready for love. On most of the nights of the week, I look a regular freak. But gee, you ought to see the way the girls run out of me. 'Cause I'm a bit of all right. Every Saturday, see me Saturday, every Saturday night.
Hey, what are you supposed to be?
I'm a discovery.
Sid Field. Who was he? Here in 1947, being feted at a charity event by senior comic greats like George Robey and the Crazy Gang. By then, he was probably the most popular star in the West End. Even the royal family were big fans. Bob Hope thought Field the best stage comedian he knew, and he would go on to influence generations of performers from, as we've seen, Laurence Olivier to Spike Milligan and Tony Hancock, all inspired by his gallery of absurd and lovable characters. His fame actually came late in life, a superstar at 40 after half a lifetime of gigs as a jobbing, obscure comedian throughout the 1920s and 1930s. He straddled the eras of music hall and television and appeared in 3 movies, but his reputation was actually made with a series of huge London variety shows that cheered audiences during the dark days of the Second World War. So, what happened? Why does hardly anyone know his name today? It's time to rediscover the heartbreaking, surprising story of this big man with a big heart, comedy's good dreamer, Sid Field.
When cares come in crowds, don't stay where they are. Climb over the clouds and polish up your lucky star. You can feel just like a king and not wear a crown, 'cause you can't keep a good dreamer down. No, you can't keep a good dreamer down.
Born on April the 1st, 1904, and nobody took that birthday seriously from a man who was constantly cracking jokes, in Sparkbrook, Birmingham, Sidney Arthur Field was the son of Bertha and Albert, a cane maker. Here he is visiting his modest childhood home. Their only child, he was largely left to his own devices, entertaining his friends with tricks and jokes. He loved ice skating and acrobatics, but away from all the performing, he remained a nervous child who, according to this 1949 magazine article, didn't like having his picture taken. Then, aged about 11, his life changed when one odd-looking man walked into his life. Sid became obsessed, watching each new Chaplin film many times. During World War I, Chaplin impersonations were commonplace, and like these kids, Sid thought it would be a good gig, armed with a special small cane his father made for him, to show off his talents as the little tramp to the queue outside the local cinema. Eventually, in true Chaplin style, he was chased away by 2 policemen. Bertha Field sensed in her talented boy a potential moneymaker, pulled some strings and got him a part with the juvenile troupe in Manchester. The sensitive 12-year-old got stage fright and caught the next train home. Undaunted, Bertha became his manager and eventually got him a plum job as the understudy at a £5 a week for one of the weirdest acts in variety, Wee Georgie Wood.
It's the sweetest love of all. I don't think much of that.
Wood was 36 in that clip from 1930. Throughout the 20s and 30s, he was just one of thousands of novelty acts Sid would join on stage. After World War I, with a tenacious mother behind him, Sid's career took him into the surreal world of pantomime and revue, where in one show he would appear on stage with real animals like horses and bears. A more typical variety bill would be based around a leading comedian performing twice a night with at least half a dozen supporting acts of all kinds. Sid would continue to tour and understudy older performers, also trying out comedy routines and sketches, performing around the country in theatres big and small, fighting for the attention at the bottom of the bill with other comedians, singers and novelty dancers like this.
Passage of the rivers to the fast stepping of Danny Lipton and his 4 girlfriends in quick-fire dancing at its best.
Sid literally grew up on trains and in digs. The travel, the performances at 6:45 and 8:45s every night, and the boozing with the likes of Danny and his 4 girlfriends was relentless. With no real prospect of fame or fortune on the horizon, he was always in work, and managers and audiences started to recognise his ability to create convincing comic scenes with a real ear for accents. He got to perform in his first comedy double act, where he was the straight man, and then, in 1930, he got new management. Manny Jay and Sid Myers steered him towards funnier material that suited him, and at the Empire Theatre, Dewsbury, he performed an early version of his Tubular Bells sketch that was finally filmed a decade and a half later. Sid was a leading comedian at last.
I hope you've got the boys up to concert pitch, because I go for this thing tooth and nail, you know, the whole thing very, very quickly, I play. Terribly quickly. Speed I attain is absolutely colossal. Sometimes I finish before the orchestra's even started, so you've got some idea of the actual speed I do really play. What's the matter, sir? You look rather worried.
Well, this music, it is a little difficult, isn't it?
You haven't got it upside down, have you? Oh, yes, I have. However, shall we go? No, thank you. Give me A, will you please? Oh, no, not all of them, no. Just one little one, please, if I may. Well, could I have that gentleman down there?
With pleasure.
Thank you. Wonderful. Charming, I'm sure.
In 1933, he married Connie Dawkins, a dancer he'd met in the variety theatres. Here is the whole family in 1948 at their home in Richmond. It was a quick registry office affair, away from his domineering and disapproving mother. Connie gave birth to their first child, Diane, in Melbourne, Australia in 1935, where Sid was on tour. Sid and his growing number of comic characters were now in demand abroad, but he found the Australian humour too coarse for his gentle tastes and left the tour early, still dreaming of West End success. A second daughter, Elaine, would follow in 1937, and a son, John Nicholas, in 1948.
Got the St. Louis blues, just blues I can't be. Got the St. Louis blues, just blues.
Back in Britain, entertainment was changing. There was a more sophisticated, jazzy style to compete with the new talking pictures from Hollywood. New anarchic acts were hitting London, like The Crazy Gang, combining slapstick with music and sketches. Formed in the early 1930s by producer George Black as a kind of British response to the Marx Brothers, the gang were actually three separate double acts, including at the centre here Bud Flanagan and Chesney Allen. The urbane, suave Allen contrasted with the earthy, wacky Flanagan, making movies with the gang and in their own right, and released a succession of hit songs, from Run Rabbit Run to this classic.
Underneath the arches, we dream our dreams away. Underneath the arches, on cobblestones we lay. Every night you'll find us tired out and worn, happy when the daylight comes creeping, heralding the dawn.
Bud would go on to write sketches with Sid, and 20 years later record the theme song to Dad's Army. Another brilliant stand-up breaking through in the crowded West End, where our hero wanted to be, was the irrepressible Max Miller, a performer the very opposite of Sid Field. This 1940 movie records his rather risque routine.
Hi, I'm here. Thanks very much. I expected more, but I'm satisfied. Blimey, you don't know what to wear this weather, do you, lady? It's raining again, Ducky. You all right in here? That's right. You'll be all right. Stay where you are. I know exactly what you're saying to yourselves. You're saying to yourselves, why is he dressed like that? I'll tell you why I'm dressed like this. I'm a commercial traveller, and I'm ready for bed. Now, listen. The last time I played this theatre, I cracked a joke and somebody told the manager. They're not entitled to do that. It's jealousy. And how do I know? Because as a rule, he sits in the box. And tonight, he's not there. Now, I'm going to crack the same joke, but don't you laugh, because if you laugh, he'll know it's rude. Now, I'll find out where he is. I think he's round the back. Now, don't move and don't go out. Don't you go out till I come back. He's on the side, sitting in a bar chair with a silk hat and a whip. Now, don't laugh. I've not got a nice figure, lady. Haven't I? No, I haven't I, Ducky? No, honest. No, well, when I'm talking, it's rude to interfere. It's like married life. No, I'm not nice, lady. I'm not drawn in. I'm all muscle. Honest, I'm not. Don't they ride up this weather? I've got new ones on tonight, lady. New ones. All rubber. Do you wear them, lady? You do, don't you, Ducky? Oh, you want to wear them. They're very unhealthy.
On stage, Max had one persona, the cheeky chappie, a colourful extension of his own exuberant personality, relentlessly interacting with his audience with saucy innuendo. In contrast, the less outgoing Sid was now relying on a variety of comic masks, engaging people with situation and character, but never as Sid Field. This film, Hootsman, however, is important to Sid's career. Both the writer, John Dighton, and the supporting actor here, Hal Walters, would work on his movie debut. Yes, as the Second World War broke out, Sid was finally hitting the big screen. It's a bit of a mystery how a competent provincial comedian, but no star, not yet, would be handed the lead in a Warner Brothers comedy thriller, albeit a cheap pastiche of Hitchcock thrillers like The 39 Steps, where an ordinary citizen meets a femme fatale and gets caught up in a deadly game of espionage. That's the ticket was made in 3 weeks at Teddington Studios and involved Sid and Hal as nightclub cloakroom attendants, being co-opted by the Secret Service on the trail of a missing top hat containing secret blueprints. The innocent object Hitchcock referred to as the MacGuffin, or a device to simply give credence to a mad plot. That's the ticket wasn't. Nobody bought tickets. And it's been pretty unviewable since 1940, with no video release. I tracked a print down at the BFI and watched it on a Moviola. It deserves better. Paul Merton has called it a major work by a major artist, which might be pushing it, as it's no classic. But Sid and Hal make a fantastic double act, and it spoofs the genre very entertainingly, with daring disguises and ending with a cream cake fight. There are few hints to Sid's stage act. He is more of the straight man here, the more suave Chesney Allen to Hal's Bud Flanagan. Perhaps it was a rejected, much older script for the Crazy Gang duo. It is weirdly set before the war in a Paris free from Nazis, at a time when Charlie Chaplin and George Formby were making movies lampooning Hitler. It seems oddly naive, so perhaps that's why it flopped. Sadly, Hal Walters was killed in the Blitz a few weeks before it was released, ending any prospect for more Walters and Field movies. A new comedy partner was required for Sid, and one who would help take his fame to new heights. Jim Sadler was born in Middlesbrough in 1908. Changing his name to Jerry Desmond and affecting a home county's accent, he toured in an act with his wife before becoming Britain's finest straight man. First working with Sid in 1942. You'll know him best as Norman Wisdom's nemesis in a series of films throughout the 1950s.
I am not nervous.
I never will be. You must be a bit. Look, your hair's all going grey at the sides.
I beg your pardon. My hair... Does it show?
Well, ain't you got something to touch it up with?
Well, I do tint it occasionally.
Oh, no, let me do it for you, Mr. Carew. No, it's all right. I used to work at a men's hairdresser's.
Are you sure?
Of course. Oh, I'll give it a massage and I'll freshen you up a bit. We'll make your hair look lovely.
You're very kind.
Too hard?
No, that's perfect.
Does you good, this?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm very relaxed.
Don't want it dropping out as well as going grey, do you?
Dropping out, please. Don't rub quite so hard.
Oh, it'll be all right.
Jerry's calm and sober presence, an ulcer prevented him from sharing in Sid's excessive drinking, and impeccable timing gave Sid both stability and reassurance on stage and off. Their partnership is a classic example of a good double act. Desmond, the disapproving adult, setting up the gag against the more childlike characters played for the big laugh by Field. In a later interview, Jerry explained Sid's generosity to his new partner. One didn't have to stand there and just be the well-dressed man and supply lines to the comic. You were there playing a part, and a funny part too, and Sidney gave me wonderful laughs, handed them to me on a platter. This idea that both sides of such an act can be funny were most aptly displayed at this very time by Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, who by the early 1940s were making 2 pictures a year. I'm sure they were an influence on the developing chemistry between Desmond and Field, as they would be to 2 teenage comedians named Eric and Ernest, waiting in the wings of comedy immortality and about to be cast in a variety show at the Prince of Wales Theatre, showcasing up-and-coming young talent.
In 1943, at the age of 15, I sat in the Prince of Wales Theatre in London and saw a sort of showcase review of unknown talent called Strike a New Note. The sensation of the youth on parade was an overnight success called Sid Field. For youth, read Knocking 40. For overnight success, read 30 years hard labour in provincial variety halls. I went back a dozen times to watch London's Discovery, playing his audiences like a violin.
Bob Monkhouse was just one of thousands who flocked to this groundbreaking show from the impresario behind The Crazy Gang and Max Miller, George Black. He had a lineup of impressive teenage performers, including Morecambe and Wise, but needed a steady, mature act to hold the show together. Enter Sid and Jerry, two jobbing comedians Black felt deserved a shot at the big time, performing a series of excellent sketches that Sid had been working on for over a decade, dotted through the evening. Ironically, it was the 39-year-old Sid who was the most nervous performer on opening night. This was his big break. He'd never played at such a huge venue before. Jerry related later how for about 5 seconds before Sid's first entrance, all he could see in the wings was the production manager fighting with the terrified comic, persuading him to go on. This scene from the movie London Town, made 2 years later, recreates the first night jitters.
It's George! Has talent. A character well known to
He's on the stage. You better get up
in the
there.
world. The smart aleck who knows all the answers. This one calls himself Slasher Green.
I come on from one side and the Prime Minister comes on from the other.
On you go. This way.
Don't worry, Mr. Daddy, I'll be all right.
Tell me when it's over.
He's fainted.
Oh!
Oh! I'll sing a song.
Come on. Anything for a laugh, this fellow. Sharp as a tack.
Don't worry, I'll get him in the next round.
No, no, no.
Oh, no.
What are you going to do for us tonight?
I'll sing a song. I said it. I'll sing a song.
Slasher Green was the hit of the night, based on the wisecracking Birmingham street sellers Sid knew so well. He'd been honing the character for years, experimenting with different dialects, so he remained identifiable to local audiences. In the West End, he became a Cockney spiv, but the genius was to make him vulnerable, a wannabe performer, a discovery, auditioning in front of Jerry for the very show he was in. The persona would go on to be lifted lock, stock and barrel by George Cole as Flash Harry in the St. Trinian's films, and later by Jimmy Beck as Private Walker in Dad's Army. Beck got the part impersonating Slasher Green in his audition. Sid was essentially a shy man who preferred a quiet family life to all the public attention that came with showbiz. At the height of his fame, he told a journalist, "Sometimes I think I'm a bloomin' waxwork." He got away from the stress of performing playing golf. Moving to southwest London in 1943, he was close to some excellent courses, including Royal Wimbledon, and this love of the game was displayed in the other huge success of Strike a New Note, Following Through, recreated here, again for the film London Town.
Very well. Take your stance.
I've got me there.
What's that?
Which one is that then, out of these?
Oh, for heaven's sake, get a stick in your hand.
What are you doing that for?
What am I doing what for?
Yes, class, yes.
But come along.
Well, I'm not supposed to know it's the stance, am I? I'm only learning. What a way to talk to people.
Well.
Don't you be so uncouth.
All right, come on. Let's go.
Oh, all right, I'm not bothered. If you want to pack it up, makes no difference to me.
Where are you going?
I'm going home.
No, come back.
What then?
Take your stance.
I've got it here. You've just given it to me.
All right, then. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go! Well, come on, then!
I don't want to mess about with you. If you don't want to show me how to play, say so in a straightforward manner, as man to man.
Ah, phooey.
Try and lead me up the garden. I know my whereabouts. Go home by myself. I can go on the bus.
Will you stop being so stupid and come back?
Well, what do you keep saying let's go for, then?
But can't you understand when I say let's go? I don't mean let's go. I mean stay here and let's go.
Look, when you say let's go,
Yes.
you don't mean let's go.
No.
You mean stay here and let's go.
Yes.
Calm, Kenny, calm. Do it.
I mean let's start to play.
Oh, I see. Well, I wonder what you meant.
Oh.
Well, what do I do with this bag?
Oh, dear. What do you think you do with a bag?
I'm asking you a civil answer.
Oh.
What do I do with the bag?
And what would you like to do with the bag? Get it out the way. Go home on the bus. That's your finish. You've had it. I couldn't even be bothered to try. Why?
You're going raving mad.
Get out.
What a performance.
At the end of the night, not only was a new catchphrase on everyone's lips, but there was a new king of the West End. The applause was huge and spontaneous. Jerry and Sid had tears of relief in their eyes. He was a fresh face to many, with material new to London theatregoers, and his physicality and family-friendly material was all praised. Field would become such a semi-permanent feature at the Prince of Wales through the rest of the war and the aftermath that his name served as a backdrop for one film shot on location there. Look at these performances for his 3 shows. This was the career Sid had always dreamed of. It's only the West End that can make you a star, he told Picture Guy magazine in 1947. It's like a hallmark you put on silver goods. George Black soon got to work on a brand new review that would capitalise on Field's success and display a new portrait of Sid by renowned artist Dame Laura Knight. Here we'd meet another influential comedy character, the photographer, a perhaps dated portrayal of extreme camp that inspired Kenneth Williams, Larry Grayson and John Inman.
Now, before we start to work, how would you like a nice cup of tea?
Oh, I'd love one.
You would?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I say, Sidney.
Yes?
Can I come and help you?
No, really, dear boy. Lovely of you to ask. Thanks so much.
So. Oh, I know. A jolly good idea.
Do tell me.
Let me cut the bread and butter.
Oh, really, true. It's already cut and the butter's wiped on.
Oh, but surely, Sidney, there must be something I can do.
Really and truly, please.
I did want to see in his kitchen, too.
Didn't take long?
No, very quick.
I say, what do you think of the weather?
Oh, dreadful.
How changeable. Isn't it? Don't know what to wear, do you?
No, you really don't.
You've been keeping all right, have you?
Yes, thank you.
I love a nice strong cup, don't you?
Yes, please.
Forgive me pouring that way, only I used to work on the railway.
Oh, you never.
I take 2 sugars just.
Mm-hmm.
How many for you?
6.
Having conquered the London stage, there was only one place for Sid to go. You'd hope Hollywood. But no, his next destination was an aircraft factory in Shepperton, converted into a huge movie studio to make a £700,000 Technicolor musical spectacular to rival the Americans. Sadly, it's one of the biggest misfires in film history. Sid plays a provincial comic lured to London to understudy an unreliable comedian in a West End show. Well, he's fine in his first straight acting role, and the supporting cast, including young Petula Clark as his daughter, is great. And it's a fun insight into the backstabbing, backstage world of the West End.
Come in.
Oh, just going to wish you luck.
Oh, thanks, old man. Come in, come in.
Thanks. You feeling all right?
I never feel all right, old man. Sit down.
Thanks.
The best I ever feel is just well enough to drag myself out onto the stage.
Oh, well, I hope you always won't feel like that.
Oh, don't worry about me, old man. These pills keep me going, eh, Belgrave?
Yes, sir. You haven't missed a performance for years, sir.
I see.
But the musical it portrays is a fake one. Unlike the popular American musicals it aspired to be, it wasn't based on a stage production. Instead, we are presented with a tedious mixture of London cliches like Flower Sellers, is it sponsored by the Daffodil Marketing Board, and Pearly Kings and Queens, mixed with very bad singing and weird contemporary ballet. All filmed in jarring Technicolor.
Heard a beat like hippity hippity hop. When the conversation's going fine, must you get your lips so close to mine? My heart goes crazy. It goes bump, de bump, bump. What'll I do? You got me crazy too.
But gee, you ought to see the way the girls run out of me. 'Cause I'm a bit of all right. Every Saturday, see me Saturday, every Saturday night.
What are you supposed to be?
I'm a discovery.
Well, why?
I've been sorted out.
Yes, but sorted out of what?
Sorted out the people. All the people that want to go on the stage so they can stop in bed in the mornings. He don't understand, do he?
No, he doesn't.
The film's real value comes from being the only record we have of Sid's live performances. However, despite this ostensibly being the filming of a West End show, most sketches have no audience laughter. This is an unusual choice by director Wesley Ruggles, presumably leaving it for the folks at the Odeon to chuckle along. But watching the film on TV today, it sucks the life out of much in Sid and Jerry's routines. It's therefore difficult for us to assess how it must have felt to watch Sid live, as these sections fall a bit flat. The sketch even has the inbuilt heckler, played by comedian Alfie Dean, so we can see the theatre audience, which makes the lack of any other reaction or noise oddly disconcerting. The overriding folly of London Town is not just that it fails to do justice to Field the live comedian, but that it feels like a decadent 1930s Busby Berkeley-esque Hollywood musical transplanted into Clement Attlee's austerity Britain. Artistically and politically, it's completely at odds with the world of 1945, and the critics hated it.
You've got to do the Hampstead. It's absolutely different. So far ahead of dreaming. Go, Abby, do the Hampstead. Oh, Abby. Go, Abby, do the Hampstead. Abby. Go, Abby, do the Hampstead. Abby. Hey, 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 Hampstead way. It's so hard to find you like the world I know. The Hampstead way. It's so far ahead of dreaming. Are you happy, little man? The Hampstead way. It's time to take a holiday. If you like to kiss the music when you stand in a train, the Hampstead way. Come on to the Hampstead way.
Unsurprisingly, London Town failed to make its huge budget back, and success in America was also wrecked when the censors there objected to the implied homosexuality in the photographer sketch, which blocked its release. It almost torpedoed beautiful Kay Kendall's career before it had barely begun, and Field himself disliked the lack of an audience for his comedy routines and the looming presence of large movie cameras following him around. Always a nervous performer, he needed minutes to warm up into a sketch. Short takes never suited him. He was happiest on stage, and that's where he'd return, twice nightly at the Prince of Wales, with a host of new sketches, sadly now lost to posterity. It was time to experiment. The golf sketch was replaced by Jerry teaching Sid snooker, which gave the team a huge comedy canvas to work on, and was a sensation. The critic from the Evening Standard seems to have had some kind of fit. Meanwhile, Slasher Green thought it was time to try legitimate theatre, appearing in his own absurd adaptation of Shakespeare's King John that prefigured Ernie Wise's wonderful The Play Is What He Wrote by 30 years. Watching this sketch, young Tony Hancock turned to his friend Graham Stark, saying, "He's the one. He's the one for me." Sid's mannerisms would stay with Hancock for his whole career.
The stars are on parade at a London theatre. It's a close-up of the men who make you laugh. George Roby in Farmer's Smock has turned programme seller in aid of the Farmers' Distress Fund. Here is top heavyweight comedian Oliver Hardy taking up all the space. But partner Stan Laurel isn't far away. It's little Stan who always suffers. Also in the bucket business, Tommy Trinder, back again from Australia. Arriving a little late, Sid Field. He was trying hard to dodge the programme selling, but the boys wouldn't let him get away. All the proceeds of their work went to aid those farmers who suffered disastrous losses during the floods.
By 1947, Sid was comedy royalty, toasted by these two legends just arrived in town. Remember the movie Stan and Ollie? It actually condensed their 3 trips to the UK into one, and features a mysterious proposed movie as one of its key plot points, possibly to star Sid Field.
When were you last over here?
1932, wasn't it?
That's right. 1932. Now you're over here again, what are you going to do?
Well, we're going to do some personal appearances and also a picture.
What's the picture going to be called?
What's the name of the picture?
Robin Hood, I think.
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood, that should be good fun.
We hope so.
Laurel and Hardy loved dressing up in historical costume, and a Robin Hood picture could have worked. We know there was a producer attached, and initially there was a gap in their schedule. Director of London Town, Wesley Ruggles, desperately in need of a hit, was also interested. Now Sid had a 3-picture deal, and it's not surprising he was under consideration for a part. However, the film never happened, and probably for the best. I'm not sure Sid's kind of act would have blended with Stan and Ollie, who were enjoying visiting friends and relatives around the country, and the tour had really taken off, with theatres booked nationwide. My guess is there simply wasn't the time or inclination on anyone's part to make the film. The boys would return 4 years later to the UK, but again to just do live shows, which they loved. Another Hollywood star was in town at this time. Mickey Rooney had taken over as compere at the London Palladium, but after weeks of a tough London crowd had taken to his sick bed, and producer Val Parnell needed a replacement. Sid was enjoying a break on his beloved golf course, but got tempted back to work with America's hot new comedy sensation Danny Kaye. They became firm friends, and with his reputation growing internationally, it was decided that Sid should finally visit Hollywood. En route, he hid in his cabin from fans on the Queen Mary, but enjoyed the flight, the only one he'd taken in his life, from New York to California. There, Cary Grant and Bob Hope hosted a lavish banquet in his honour. He discussed a film project with Bing Crosby, and as seen here, appeared on the radio, something he rarely did in England, and was invited to dinner by Charlie Chaplin. Visiting his comedy heroes somewhat inevitably turned into a farce. Spotting that the dapper and fastidiously dressed Chaplin had a loose thread on his collar, the much taller Sid helpfully tugged at it. It didn't detach, and there was the brief spectacle of Field literally bouncing the most famous filmmaker in the world around his dining room like a yo-yo. The fact that Sid was invited back for a second evening implies that Chaplin must have seen the funny side. Back home in Richmond, Sid welcomed the birth of his son, John Nicholas, in 1948. He doted on the baby. He was happy. He told Jerry Desmond's wife, "I've got a son. I've been to America. There's nothing more I want." But there was more to come. The year would also see work start on Sid's third film. He would share top billing with the country's biggest movie star, Margaret Lockwood, and it would be something of a departure for both actors. Sid would do period costume and Margaret would do comedy. Set in the dying days of the Cromwell Protectorate, Cardboard Cavalier was guaranteed to be historically inaccurate. Sid plays an actor turned barrow boy in a sort of gentler version of Slasher Green against Lockwood's sexy Nell Gwyn.
Keep thy clapper out of matters that don't concern thee, Nell Gwyn, or I'll knight thee with a flounder. If thy flounder's as ancient as the rest of thy stock, it'll knight me itself. What? If there's a fish on this stall as old or stale as the swill thou sellest in thy flea-bitten tavern, ha-ha, I'll eat it myself. Then thou art naught better than a cannibal. What? A cannibal! Put thy bun and get thee gone. Stay where thou art till she treats thee fair. Get thee gone. Stay here. Thy wit is as watered as thy beard. Thou swillikins! Thy manners are no sweeter than thy swindles, thou old lobster pot. Give the old dame what she asked for. That I will, after I've served thee, Nell Gwyn.
Sid was the only actor Lockwood would trust to throw that pie. But being a gentleman and a huge fan of the actress, it took him 3 nervous takes and a lot of cleaning to get it right. Lockwood adored working with Field, and Sid seemed to relax into what proved to be a diverting, inoffensive, cinematic lark, also featuring his old pal, Jerry Desmond.
I shall test thee first. Take this letter to Sir Seymour Simon at Vauxhall.
At once, sire.
A moment.
Sire?
Be discreet. My name must be kept out of it. Remember, this is to test thy mettle.
Not another word, sire.
Come back. Dost know how to deliver a letter discreetly?
Oh, you didn't have to ask that, sire. I am discretion itself.
Then demonstrate to me how you intend to go about it. Imagine that I am Sir Seymour Simon, and you are shown into my presence.
Nothing easier, sire.
Come. Come in.
Shall I come in?
Aye.
Sir Seymour Simon?
Aye.
I have a very private letter for thee.
Oh, nay, nay, nay.
Nay?
Nay.
What did I do wrong?
You did not look to see if I was alone.
Well, aren't you?
Nay.
Who's with you?
That's for thee to find out.
Well, I don't see anybody.
Imagine that my steward is standing beside me.
Why, aren't you feeling very well?
All right, my butler then.
Why don't you send him away?
I will. You may go, Fotherington.
Are we alone now?
Yes.
I have a very important letter for thee.
Stop!
What?
You talk too loudly. Supposing Fotherington were listening at the door.
Oh, I forgot. I'll go and have a look.
Yes.
Fotherington! He was listening.
What did I tell you?
Yes, you can't be too careful.
You can't.
Are we alone now?
Yes.
I have a very important letter for thee.
Who from?
Colonel Lovelace.
Ah, blockhead! Didst thou not tell thee to be discreet?
I was discreet.
Thou wast not. You told him my name.
Well, you sent the letter.
And how do you know Sir Seymour Simon knows I sent the letter?
Well, doesn't he?
No.
You mean he's not expecting a letter from you?
No, he isn't.
Well, why'd you send it?
Because he's expecting it.
What a performance.
Not from me. He's expecting a letter.
You mean I'm not supposed to let him know I know he knows who sent the letter?
Yes.
So silly you should have said.
Thou hast it clear now?
Oh, yes.
Then tell me what thou shalt say.
I'll do it again.
Do.
Sir Seymour Simon?
Aye.
I have a letter for thee.
Who from?
Nobody.
Blockhead! What kind of an answer is that? It must be from somebody.
Just you stop that.
Stop that, dunderhead.
Punching people. Only doing my best when all said and done.
Your best is your worst.
This lovely scene with its long takes shows the impeccable timing of Sid and Jerry, able to simply perform as if live to the camera. With material that actually suited him, it finally showed Sid had a potential future as a comedy screen actor. Sadly, the film met with tepid reviews, and this may have prompted Sid to pursue an idea bubbling away in his head: a return to the stage, but with a straight acting part. One play that he'd seen on Broadway on his way home from Hollywood touched a nerve, featuring Jimmy Stewart and an invisible 6-foot rabbit.
What is it you do, Mr. Dowd?
Well, Harvey and I sit on the bars and have a drink or two, play the jukebox. And soon the faces of all the other people, they turn toward mine and they smile. And they're saying, we don't know your name, mister, but you're a very nice fellow. Harvey and I warm ourselves in all these golden moments. You know, we've entered as strangers. Soon we have friends, and they come over and they sit with us, they drink with us, they talk to us. They tell about the big, terrible things they've done and the big, wonderful things they'll do. Their hopes and their regrets, their loves and their hates, all very large, because nobody ever brings anything small into a bar. And then I introduced them to Harvey.
The playwright Mary Chase was fully behind Sid's casting as the alcoholic fantasist Elwood Dowd, and the producers knew that Sid's name would sell a lot of tickets. But was Sid ready? Reviews of the first night analysed how Sid took time to warm into the character, but by the second act, with a few of his familiar mannerisms, they were all believing in Harvey as much as Elwood did, and it proved to be a smash hit. A fascinating postscript features Tony Hancock again. While Harvey was previewing in Birmingham, Hancock was in panto in a nearby theatre. He saw Field alone in a pub, but didn't dare go up to him, as he looked so lonely and miserable. One of the biggest stars in the country, silently shunning company and still doubting himself. And it was those nights in the pub that ended it all. 30 years of twice nightly performances, fortified by alcohol before and after each performance. He and Connie had moved to a large detached cottage opposite Wimbledon Common, and he was playing in Harvey every night to packed houses, but he was not a well man. There were mild heart attacks, and finally doctors recommended a complete break from work. A cruise with the baby to South Africa. Another heart attack. But Sid refused to give up. He returned to his beloved Rabbit and the Prince of Wales Theatre on Boxing Day 1949. But on the 3rd of February 1950, he died suddenly at home, with Connie beside him. He was just 45. The show business world was stunned. Cary Grant, when told the news, burst into tears. Tributes from the great names of comedy who had watched with astonishment the rise of this extraordinary phenomenon poured in. "It's a great loss to the world," said Bob Hope, "but it means a lot of happiness in heaven." "The entertainment world has lost a great artist," mourned Bing Crosby. "It was a pleasure to know him personally." While his comedy partner, Jerry Desmond, told the press, "To know him was to love and admire him." Sid Field had just £60 in his account the day he died. The family had moved to increasingly larger homes upon moving to London. Field was always overly generous in giving away money to friends and paid no attention to his bank statements. Connie had to sell the expensive car and their new house in Wimbledon and take their daughters out of their fee-paying school. It was Danny Kaye who came to the rescue. Sid's best friend sought out all of his most famous fans: Laurence Olivier and Vivian Leigh, Orson Welles, the Crazy Gang. They planned a benefit night, a midnight matinee at the Palladium that would be the most star-studded night in West End history, in Sid's honour. Judy Garland was free. Margaret Lockwood and Jerry Desmond would of course be there. Peter Ustinov had a monologue. Sing, dance, dress up, whatever you wanted to do. Thousands of pounds would be raised to help Connie bring up their 3 children and to say thank you to Sid.
Mrs. Berry?
Yes?
They don't seem to have my part.
Part?
Yes, you remember me.
Of course, you're,
Without a single hit movie to his name, only glimpses of his stage act preserved, and dying years before his contemporaries, Sid Field became the forgotten godfather of British comedy. There were no opportunities to appear on television or to pursue the dramatic parts on stage or on film he was clearly capable of. The scant material that survives was never enough to build a legend on. There remains a single biography by John Fisher, published back in 1970, that contains many valuable interviews with Sid's friends, and Connie's heartbreaking description of his last days. And only his worst film, London Town, has been released on DVD. Actor David Suchet made an attempt to resurrect this most enigmatic of comedians in the 1990s, with a stage show and later a reverential documentary for the BBC. But these remain buried curios, never repeated, forgotten like Sid himself. More examples of how fleeting Field's fame became.
Do you know, Whittaker, really, I've never been the same since my last operation.
Oh, you poor soul. Was it serious?
Serious, I think it was. 14 weeks on my back with my leg up.
Oh, really, that's dreadful. Were you stitched?
Well, I certainly wasn't crocheted.
Oh, well, I was only asking.
Sid Field remains one of the most tantalising what-ifs in British show business. As in his first stage hit, Strike a New Note, he was always the odd man out. Too young to tread the music hall boards in the 1910s with his heroes, Charlie Chaplin and Stan Laurel. Too obscure in the early 1930s to join the Crazy Gang in the West End. And finally, tragically, unable to take his part in the exciting new wave of post-war comedians like Frankie Howerd, who saw him as something of a comic guru. His success seems rooted in being different. He pioneered a kind of comedy that was relevant to audiences suffering from the trauma of war. They found it not only sharp and funny, but reassuring and true. It chimed with the future king of British camp, Kenneth Williams, who wrote in his diary in 1948 after seeing Sid at the London Palladium that he was marvellous and received terrific and well-merited applause. What camping! I simply roared. Spike Milligan once said that seeing Sid in action had been the first time he had really laughed hysterically at a character on the stage. And there are echoes of Sid's absurd characters in The Goons. Sid's inspiration resonates further down the decades. Norman Wisdom, of course, inherited Sid's comic dynamic with Jerry Desmond. Morecambe and Wise got their first big break alongside him. Dad's Army literally stole his act. John Inman minced onto prime-time TV in his wake, and finally, fellow Brummie Tony Hancock acknowledged him as his greatest influence. On TV, even adopting a similar hat and coat. Sadly, there would never be a Sid Field's half hour on the BBC, but there didn't have to be. His work permeates British comedy to this day.
I like it in London.
Oh, but you haven't seen it yet.
Well, I like it anyway.
Good night.
Good night. Jerry!
No, absolutely no.
Oh, please, Jerry.
No, I said. You want me to wake the neighbors?
All right. But I'll toss and turn all night.
Just remember when good fortune chooses to frown, that you can't keep a good dreamer down. Don't forget there isn't any wrong side of town. and you can't keep a good dreamer down. When cares come in crowds, don't stay where they are. Climb over the clouds and polish up your lucky star. You can feel just like a king and not wear a crown, 'cause you can't keep a good dreamer down. No, you can't keep a good dreamer down.
Now the funny chorus.
When the little monkey feels he's more than a clown, well, you can't keep a good dreamer down. If a nanny goat would like a new Paris gown, well, you can't keep a good dreamer down. Why, even a cow jumped over the moon, so just take a bow and hop aboard a toy balloon. If a little fish can wish for wealth and renown, and believes that his cares soon will drown, well, you can't keep a good dream